What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? Stoked to have the panel here this evening. Bunch of good dudes. We're going to get into it. A couple returning guests and a first timer. So very excited to have them all. We're going to get rolling momentarily. I hope you guys are having a good continuation of your week and you got a good weekend ahead of you. But of course, this is live. Anything can happen. So I defer to my friend Bill here.
Live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share. All those things are super important. They help get this content in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, let's take a quick look at where we are in the market right now. I'm pulling up timechaincalendar.com and simultaneously I'm going to pull up the live chat. Everything you say into the chat is now live for the world to see, for better or worse. So back to Time Chain Calendar, we're sitting at $69,655 per coin. A single US dollar will snag you 1,436 sats. In terms of fees, next block, only 11 sats per byte, anytime 8 sats per byte. And Bitcoin mined, 19.67 million of them. That is 93.66% of the entire supply. That flashing bar around the outside of the time chain calendar, that indicates how close we are nearing the halving. We're 21 days and 18 hours out, estimated to be April 20th at around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it is just around the corner. Shout out to sponsor of the show, HodlHodl.com. When it comes to peer-to-peer trading and lending, instant self-custody, no KYC, awesome place to be. You can sign up with just an email address. Once you're in, choose your currency, payment method, and amount. Start browsing offers immediately. You can check them out at the links down below. When you do get your hands on some Bitcoin, you're going to want to secure it with some of the best damn hardware on the market. CoinKite has you covered. They got all the goodies. The cold card queue is badass. Low-key, I just saw my shipment drop of all my pre-orders. I shit you not. I have 8 queues on the way. So excited for those to show up at the doorstep. That'll be some explaining to the wife. But nonetheless, you can pick up all the good stuff there, including the queue, the tap signer, and everything else they have to offer. Head to coinkite.com. You can use code BTC Sessions for a nice discount at checkout. Backups are important as well. Seedor has an awesome solution, very robust, one of the better, beautifully designed ones out there. Disk and capsule design to protect your seed from the elements. Basically, you stamp your seed into solid steel, protects it from fire, water, corrosion, all that stuff. They have starter sets for 1 or 2 seeds, and there are links down below for the best shipping options for you. Also, check out my tutorial. Nunchuk has you covered with assisted multi-sig. These guys are knocking it out of the park. Basically, what you can do is set up a full multi-sig wallet or vault on your phone with things like tap signer, cold card, and plenty of other hardware options. Once it's set up, you have baked-in inheritance planning, so your Bitcoin gets to your next of kin if anything should happen. And on top of that, the whole thing doesn't need KYC. You can set it up without any personal information and have it working for you. Check them out at nunchuk.io. And finally, Start9, your sovereign computing solution. These guys have you covered when it comes to plug-and-play devices to host not only your Bitcoin stack, but your digital life, pretty much. So you can run your Bitcoin Core node, your Lightning node, mempool.space, join market, things like files, passwords, photos, Nostr relays and clients, and even AI tools that are not censored. So if you want to check them out, start9.com. They've got devices all the way from entry level up to what I'm running, which is the Start9 Server Pure. But enough of my rambling. Let's get our guests in here and get rolling here. So I'm going to welcome to the stage Tatum and Adam and Jeff. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Stoked to have you all. Let's do a quick round of intros so everybody is familiar with who's on the stage. So I'll toss it over to Adam first. Dude, welcome back, first of all. I just saw you the other day at the SAT market here in Calgary, like last weekend, but good to see you digitally again. Can you give yourself a little intro, man?
Yeah, man, it was good. Thanks for everyone who doesn't know, Ben bought a picture that one of my kids colored for 2,000 sats. So big ups to Ben. I expect to see it on the fridge next time I come over.
Oh yeah, he came and he upsold me. I think I had a few fine. I've curated quite the collection now.
Yes, my toddlers, they know how to use a marker real well. Yeah, I'm Adam. I'm the founder and CEO at Bitcoin Well. We're a publicly traded Bitcoin company. We are automatic self-custody and nothing less than that. You cannot hold Bitcoin on our platform, and that's the way it should be.
Awesome. And Adam, can I just drop the bomb right now?
Do it, man. First time. Let's go.
Yeah. So Adam, first of all, we've been friends forever. And he actually helped me attain some of my first sats. I was running around helping clearing some of his Bitcoin ATMs way back in 2000. Was that 15?
Dude, it was a long time ago. It was like long before your hair turned blonde.
It was, yeah, pre-streak, if such a time existed. But yeah, I was running around clearing ATMs for him and everything, so we've known each other a long time. But yeah, so Adam just took the title sponsor spot on the show, and so that's going to be starting next month. But yeah, and I'm stoked because I'm going to be obviously Bitcoin Well is awesome, but also I'm going to be owning shares of Bitcoin Well as well, because I want to put my reputation and money where my mouth is, and I think you're running a tight ship. So thanks, man. Stoked to be working.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on board. It's going to be awesome.
Cool. Well, and welcome back to the show too. So
thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's toss it down to Tatum. Tatum, where the fuck is your vest?
I have to apologize to C-Funk and everyone else. I do not know. I'm not at home. So I actually am currently selling all of my belongings for more Bitcoin. But no, I'm Tatum Turnup. I am host of Between Two A6, which is coming back, by the way. Shout out to Ben, I think was the third guest. A degenerate Bitcoin miner and the king of Denver. So that's me.
Well, I'm stoked to have you back, man, and I'll have to see you in person soon enough. But it's good to have you nonetheless. Also, shout out to you for being like an absolute asset during the Christmas show. Tatum was backstage the whole fucking time, holding down the ship and herding cats, aka Bitcoiners, into the correct guest slots on that mammoth show. So I do actually deeply appreciate that. Thanks, man.
That is my favorite Christmas tradition now, and I hope that you ask me back for year 4 because I love doing it.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course, every year. All right, well, let's go down the line. Jeff, you're a first timer to the show, so welcome. Thank you. Hopefully it's not too degen for you already, but I'm glad to have you. Can you give yourself a little intro?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, so hi everybody. I'm Punter Jeff, or just Jeff. You can call me Jeff. That's fine. I am one of these traditional finance guys that's found my way into the Bitcoin world. Fully orange-pilled. I've been here for quite a while now. I was trading Bitcoin back in 2021, but now I'm here to stay. Yeah, it's the new financial rails. Awesome. So yeah, I've had some interesting takes on MicroStrategy recently. I've talked about valuations. Some of that has been on my Twitter. It's a bit polarizing for some of the Bitcoin maxis, and it's I might want to talk about some of that today. So yeah,
love it.
Look forward to it.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for being here. It's always good getting bullish on a Friday with everybody. And anybody in the chat, of course, welcome as well. Make sure you smash that like, give this a share. It does really help a lot. But for those that are maybe brand new and unfamiliar with the show, this is Why Are We Bullish? very simple premise. Each one of us comes with a reason for being bullish, and that can take any form. It could be a personal experience, a news item, a new device or app or something like that, a video that we saw, really whatever floats your boat. And so the flow of the show is, number one, somebody's going to drop their reason for being bullish. This is your chance to rant, get off your chest, whatever you're currently excited about. Number two, all together, we're going to rant on that riff. We're going to discuss, ask questions, comments, go down whatever rabbit holes we want. And then finally, number three, once we've finished up with that topic, we're going to rotate to the next person until we've all had a turn. So reason, riff, rotate, nice and simple. So I'm going to get us started. And actually, I'm going to get us started with a reason. It was actually just announced yesterday. And this is a new initiative that I'm partaking in. And I'm going to preface this by saying that doing work with the Human Rights Foundation has been some of the most impactful moments that I've experienced since getting into Bitcoin. And it's been really special to be able to go to these events where, number one, Bitcoin is not the focus of the event. You know, these are human rights events talking about people that are under massive pressure from tyrannical governments or other horrible things that they're trying to navigate, and they're telling their stories, and Bitcoin is merely present on the side as a potential tool in their tool belt. And that's kind of the unique thing about it that is the coolest, is that there's a group of people that are disenfranchised in one way or another that are finding Bitcoin actually useful in a lot of their circumstances. And so the thing that got announced the other day was this, and this is a press release from the Human Rights Foundation. And I'll, if I can, I'll zoom it in a little bit here. So HRF launches webinar to help nonprofits integrate Bitcoin. Human Rights Foundation is delighted to announce a free quarterly webinar to teach nonprofits, particularly human rights organizations, how to integrate Bitcoin into their work to challenge state censorship and confiscation. And the quote here: in a world where financial deplatforming is on the rise, especially in dictatorships, this kind of education is critical. This from Alex Gladstein. Authoritarians everywhere from Hong Kong to Nicaragua to Iran are increasingly relying on freezing bank accounts, censoring donations, and confiscating assets of NGOs and dissidents. It's time to help civil society learn about unstoppable money. The first course will take place from April 22nd to 26th and will consist of 5-hour-long lectures at 10:30 a.m. EDT taught by myself. The course.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You missed the part where it said world-class educator.
They're talking you up.
Oh, we'll just say taught by some guy with weird hair. But yeah, so we're going to be covering basically getting people onboarded to kind of like the 101 of Bitcoin. How do you self-custody it? How do you accept donations? A little bit about options between security versus the versatility of quick and easy payments and the trade-offs with different options that you might use, but more or less just like the initial onboarding to get people familiar with the basics of Bitcoin so that they can begin to move forward and utilize it as a tool in their tool belt. So I'm super excited to be a part of this. I had been doing some stuff with the HRF intermittently, but this is going to be decidedly regular work. And we're going to, as it says there, we're going to be doing these quarterly. So this is just the first one. I hope a lot of people come out to it, whether they be people that are dissidents or whether it's just people that, want to be a part of it and share it with others. Yeah. And I think it matters. And I'm glad to be working alongside with Alex and everybody at the HRF. They're all pretty awesome. So that's why I'm bullish. That's why I'm excited. I'm going to open it up to you guys just in terms of, have you seen some of the stuff that's been coming out of the HRF? Obviously, a lot of people are familiar with Gladstein, but, what are your thoughts in and around what they're doing there? And anybody can jump in, by the way.
Edward,
fire
I
off.
thought you were about to say something. Okay, yeah.
This makes me pretty stoked. I think, Ben, you and I chatted about this in Toronto last year, I think, and you were telling me about I think the conference in Oslo.
Yeah.
And how 2 years ago you were talking about someone that had been jailed, someone that had been captured, taken prisoner, and put in jail.
Yeah.
And how you had suggested, and you guys were talking about how, making Bitcoin donations, and then how the next year that guy that was jailed was on stage talking about how Bitcoin helped, and the lack of censorship in Bitcoin helped free him and helped fund the campaign and whatever. You can tell the story probably, like, obviously better than I can. But what struck me so hard about that story was how, like, both of us were almost like emotional talking about that, and realizing how incredible Bitcoin is for so much more than just number to go up. And now that you get to go and orange pill, like, how many hundreds or thousands of people is, man, that's so dynamite. One more thing that I love about that is, you didn't touch on it, but if you go back to that release, or that thing, if you scroll below, it was that they're going to be teaching about self-custody. You're teaching about backing up wallets, sending and receiving transactions safely. Like, this is censorship resistant money. And I love that you're taking that angle. Obviously, we're an automatic self-custody platform. Like, that's near and dear to my heart. So yeah, man, I'm stoked for you. I'm super stoked that you get to go and do that, spread some Bitcoin love, and it's gonna be rock solid, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, that was
five 1 hour sessions seems excessive from a BTC session guy, but mind you, your tutorials are like behemoths, so maybe that's
I mean,
like 1.5 regular session.
I mean, if you looked at his uncut footage of his cold card MK4, it was at least like 10 hours.
I just didn't leave the room for a week.
Ben has to have like 4 different packed lunches to get through one tutorial.
Yeah, I think that was my longest video ever, was the cold card Mark IV. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cover everything it does. Like, a week and a half later, I was like, oh, fuck, what did I do?
Dude, I sent my friend, it was a guy that did some work at my cabin. He was like, I want to take Bitcoin, like, help me do that. And I was like, okay, buy one of these, and here's how you set it up. And he was like, what the fuck, dude? That video's 2.5 hours. And I was just like, oh, well, Bitcoin's important, so you should probably just watch it.
Stop being so high time preference, buddy. What's 2.5 hours for generational wealth, right? Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, it is. It is. Again, to your point, in and around, like these people in particular, like that one you mentioned, that was one of the most impactful moments. Like, I had to, it was the year before. It was this guy's wife was speaking. Her name is Berta, and she was on stage, and she was talking about how her husband was basically like abducted. He was they're from Nicaragua, and he was running a campaign against the existing regime, and basically warning everybody that it was falling down the slope towards totalitarianism. And they basically just, like, one day abducted him and just took him. And when she was giving her speech, she hadn't seen him in 2 years, and they have a young daughter together. And so, like, she tells this whole story, just this awful story. I listened to it on stage. But I was sat far away, so I couldn't quite see her, like, who it was. And then later at the same event, this was in Oslo, I taught a session on how to set up a Bitcoin wallet. And afterwards, somebody's talking to me, this lady's talking to me, and she's chatting, and asking some questions about Bitcoin. She had said that somebody suggested some other coins, and I was like, well, here's why maybe that's not a good idea. And laid out things. And then passively during the conversation, I said, I mentioned that the 21 million cap, and she was like, the what? I was like, how Bitcoin has a fixed supply and they can't print more of it? And she's like, Oh my God, that's like useful for a whole other reason than I initially came to it for. Like she literally, everybody in the West, it's like, it's scarce. I'm going to number go up. That's what it's all about. She literally had no idea that was even a thing and gravitated towards Bitcoin. Anyways, it ended up, that was the same lady on stage, unbeknownst to me until like a year later. And then I became privy to that and I was like, okay, well, that's nice. Hopefully that's helpful. And yeah, so the next year I'm sitting in the audience about to watch different presentations. And I didn't know that this was coming, but out onto the stage walks her husband, who had been since released, and was just like giving his speech about like basically what happened and like what's happening in Nicaragua and like his like return to his family and everything. And they start off, and I'm like, oh God, they start off the presentation with the video of him being reunited with his like 8-year-old daughter for the first time in 2.5 years. And I'm just like crying like a baby. And, and like I've got my daughter's turning 7 soon. So I'm like, I can definitely, you know, relate to that in a way. And I'm, you know, trying to watch this thing and just like absolute mess. I had to like, after that, I had to like leave the theater and go on a long walk. But like, these are the types of stories that very much like impact you. And it's not that Bitcoin was like a centerpiece in that, but just the fact that it's useful and it can help in some way contribute to that. Like I'm glad to be a part of that in some way. So anyways, it was a hell of an experience. I can't wait to go back to Oslo again this year, and I can't wait to be a part of this whole initiative. So yeah.
It's super noble. I mean, we're at a really critical point where the number of people hitting the Bitcoin network is going to rocket drastically just with the Bitcoin ETFs and the amount of traditional finance capital that's about to hit the Bitcoin network, and helping these people understand Bitcoin before that gets too complicated and before traditional finance catches up is an opportunity to get people access to this that deserve it. Yeah. Right. And that's incredibly noble. And I mean, I think that's how the Bitcoin network grows. Like you start seeing more use cases beyond just number go up, and it's phenomenally useful. Yeah. Awesome. Great stuff.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Yeah. So anyways, I'll kind of put a bow on this topic, but I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's a pretty cool thing, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. And yeah, I hope people continue to kind of help share out that message and get it to people who need it. And yeah, let's hope it's helpful. But with that, we're going to do a rotation. I'm just going to go in the order on my screen here. I'm going to toss to Adam first, and you're going to get the same question everybody else is. And I'll start you off here, man. Why are you bullish?
Yo, I've been thinking about this. I actually tweeted about this before you'd asked me to come on the show. And so it's like, here we are, 2-3 weeks before the halving. And this is my third halving. I got into Bitcoin in 2013. And so I'm like, I've seen a few halvings here, and it feels like at least my echo chamber online, at least my circle, we're not talking about number go up, man. Like we're not talking about, it's like that is a foregone conclusion at this point. Number go up is boring for Bitcoiners at this point. I'm bullish because we're talking about generational wealth. We're like, look at your ad read for Nunchuk. It's like, and there's baked in ways to pass your seed down to your kids. Like we're talking about generational wealth. We're talking about the future. We're talking like, what I said, in that tweet was like, this halving is about freedom. This halving is about sovereignty. This think about what our grandkids, our great grandkids are going to experience. Like, I'm just so bullish for future halvings. Number go up has come, and it's it's obviously not gone. Like number go up will continue until the last coin is mined, the last sat is mined. But the fact that we're already talking about it with still, a million coins, a million plus coins to be mined is insane. That is so based. We are so lucky. And we're literally in a time that will be looked at, you know, if there are still such a thing as history books, if the state hasn't like completely brainwashed and just removed all instances of books in the future, this will be in the history books as the most influential time when money was separated from state and the citizens have freedom, financial freedom, and sovereignty for really the first time. Like even looking back in throughout history, we've never had money and state separated, and now we have money created for individuals that give power to individuals that has, you know, it's programmed to just maintain or increase purchasing power. It's like, it's stunning. And we've got some of the best innovators in the world excited about and focusing on Bitcoin. It's remarkable. I have a few BitKeys. I've been trying out those BitKey devices, and they're you know, they're interesting. I'm not sure they like fit into my daily Bitcoin use case right now, but the more that, like, you know, like, thanks, Jack. Like, that's awesome. You know, we've got some pretty wicked people building on Bitcoin. That's what has me bullish, is just the halving is here. You know, there's like, obviously there's some number grow up talk, but it's mostly about sovereignty. It's about the future. It's about passing down your keys to your loved ones. It's about individual freedom. I mean, look, like even what we just talked about, the Human Rights Foundation is like excited about Bitcoin, not because of supply cap and scarcity, but because of decentralization and self-sovereignty. And that's like, wow, I love it. Smash buy.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting how we're at this unique point, I think, in humanity where, especially the last little bit, it's been a little bit more difficult to get a leg up, or to understand how to get a leg up for your kids and your grandkids. And it's getting harder and harder to get by just on one's own, let alone think about future generations. And I think that that's been flipped on its head now. You've got a freaking cheat code so that your great grandkids can build something amazing. And so all of a sudden, actions that you take today, you know, in fiat land, every action you take today has a diminishing return over time. And it's the total opposite for Bitcoiners. Every action you have today, if you play your cards right and you take your time and you're conscious and you're conservative with your actions and you plan accordingly, every action you take today is going to reverberate through the ages for generations to come, for your family, for people you care about, and for things and causes that you care about. And so, yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Generational wealth, absolutely. Generational wealth for everyone who cares to take the time to have a low time preference. And, you know, let's fucking build some shit. I think that's pretty exciting. So I don't know. I'll let Jeff or Tatum dive in here and give their thoughts as well.
Yeah, very obviously number go up has been in the vocabulary for a little bit, because, you know, things are happening. But also, by the way, hey Yellow, also I've been doing a lot more, like it was probably towards the bottom of the bear where I was really trying to think, like, okay, why am I doing this? If it's not, like, I knew why I was doing it, but it's like, what's the real, like, ethos behind all this? And I realized, like, okay, I don't care if it's $1 per coin. Like, I'm going to still be using it because of what it is. It is uncensorable. Nuances there, but censorship resistance. If I can, you know, access the internet, like I can access my stack. I can use Bitcoin. It gives you a sense of power that, like, you are in control of it, and the sovereignty that comes with it. Like I'm like a lot of people. I got in because number go up, and then it was only after that that I started doing more research and learning, and now I have like my whole sovereign home network and stuff like that, and I'm running a node. I'm self-hosting everything that I can, and like I have 50 UB keys. It goes down that rabbit hole too. Like it's one of those things that my favorite thing to say is I came to get rich, I stay to get even, because it teaches you a lot. Like you realize you're like, okay, I am not in control of my own life, but Bitcoin is kind of like a pathway into controlling your own life, becoming sovereign. And number go up is just the cherry on top, I think. So yeah, I agree with everything that Adam's saying. I'm having conversations. Like there's a coworker of mine that is huge into Lightning, and I call myself a optimistic bear on Lightning. We can go into that later on. Different story, different day. I love Lightning. Don't get me wrong, but he's been helping me out with a lot of self-custodial Lightning stuff. I've been helping him out on hardware devices and stuff like that, and we're just going back and forth like every single day with different stuff. And he told me the other day, he's like, look, I really appreciate everything that you're helping me with, but I need to also like figure out how to do it simply. I was like, what do you mean? Like you have to sacrifice convenience, until then you're not free. And he's like, I have 2 daughters and one on the way in the next month, and they're the only things I think about whenever I am stacking Bitcoin. So that's when I was like, damn. Okay, well, this just hit me in the feels a little bit. But yeah, it puts it in a different light, how like everyone is in a different situation, and it's, I don't know, sovereignty is a big push that's going to come in this next cycle, I think, that we haven't seen previously.
Yeah. I mean, it's primed for it, right? I think it's, and to your point, I guess, to tag on to there's going to be more sovereignty, but it's going to feel like less, because there's going to be an influx of newcomers that need to go through the whole learning process, right? There's still plenty more burns to be had, but as per existing Bitcoiners, like we're earning our stripes, man. Like if you just lived through that bear market, then you're coming out the other end of it hardened, right? Like you've got a few scars, and you learned a few lessons, and Bitcoin is a cruel but effective teacher, and you're better for it. And yeah, man, like it's harkening back to the previous topic, HRF, Glassstein likes to say freedom go up, and another one is sovereignty go up. Number go up with it, that helps. But at the end of the day, it's cool.
Can't be sovereign if you can't afford to eat, whatever. But dude, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just like a hopeless optimist here, but I feel like the mistakes of the past, like think about when you got into space, or like, I think back to when I got into space, there was no like daily session.
That's why I was so late.
Like, dude, it was like the learning curve was so steep and the mistakes were so earnest. And there was like, I don't like, and maybe I'm going to have to turn in my Maxi card here, but like I used to mine Litecoin in 2013 because I didn't know any better. I didn't get to have a Bitcoin Twitter to learn from. And then I did. And now I contribute to it, and you contribute to it, and Tatum contributes to it. And Jeff, I assume, is going to start contributing to it. And it's like, it's like the learning curves are going to get significantly like reduced as all this education compounds. Yeah, Feathercoin. Like Feathercoin doesn't exist anymore. I at one point probably owned some Feathercoin. I remember I had like a couple of people that were like, you know, oh, Feathercoin and Lisk and Nano, like these are the future. And it's like, well, maybe like it's 2015 right now. What do we know? Bitcoin is a couple $100 or a couple $1,000. Like, you know, maybe this is the top. And then you realize you go through this experience, you learn a bit more, and you understand that there is no top. You know, to quote Sailor, there is no second best. It's remarkable. And we've got these people in the space now that are preaching that level. And I hope that we see a lot less problems in the future because the education is so strong. But I mean, I could be wrong. Like we've seen exchanges collapse since 2013, and somehow FTX still happened in 2021. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But
I think you're both right, but I think that there's so many people that have yet to learn the lessons that you're right for the existing crop of Bitcoiners, and that people, I mean, okay, so if you're in the audience right now and you've never heard of Feathercoin, Lisk, and Nano, that's a perfect example of why you shouldn't shitcoin, right? Like
100%.
These are all just volatile paths to owning less Bitcoin, right? Like you might get, if it's some new fancy meme coin or whatever, there's a chance by the time you hear of it, maybe it spikes a little bit and has its all-time high versus Bitcoin, but it's all downhill from there, my friends. It's all downhill from there.
I had this conversation, like Bitcoin pumps the last month. My buddy texts me and he's like, what's the next meme coin? Like, you got to get it. I was like, dude, there is none. He's like, come on, I want to gamble. Like, I know it's not long-term, but like, and I was like, dude, there's none. You want to gamble? Go to the casino. The gains are tax-free when you win a jackpot at the VLTs. Like that is better than whatever meme coin you're going to invest in. At least you feel like a pile of, dog crap when you walk out of the casino with $0. It's like the crypto casino just pisses me off so bad. And really it's the fiat world that forces the crypto casino onto people. This nonstop rush towards, riches and gains. We're all in this rat race, and the crypto casino is just like part of that. It's the antithesis of Bitcoin. And it is the entire fiat world wrapped into one is the crypto casino. It's just garbage.
I was having a conversation the other day. I was having breakfast with Adam, you know him, but anybody watching, Dave Bradley, he's co-founder of Bull Bitcoin.
Second best looking and second strongest Bitcoin entrepreneur in the country.
Yeah.
Too,
yeah. Bitcoin Brains is his handle. And anyways, we're having breakfast with a few other people, and there's some dude, and I can't remember what he said he had. He said something. It was like, oh, I got Solana or something. And Dave's like quick response. He's like, oh, really? I recommend roulette.
That's so good.
If you're gonna fuck around like that, you may as well just go to roulette table. It's just same odds.
It's literally
all
what
the better
you're
odds, man. You have a 1 in 36 chance at the roulette table. Like you probably got better odds.
Yeah, that's fair. Jeff, I want to get your takes on this as well. Like the ability to pass on wealth to generations and kind of the position we're in.
Well, I really like the math component of this, right? I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's 21 million coins. If you were to spread those equally, in which we know they're not, but if you were to spread those equally, it'd be 0.002625. So 262,000 sats per person, right? You could buy that for $184 today. So when you start looking at your stack and you look relative to what an equal distribution would be for every human on the planet, you start to see the impact of the generational wealth.
Yeah.
And that part is incredibly staggering to me to think about the math from that perspective. And if you just do Americans, right? There's 300 million Americans that live in America, 21 million coins. You're talking about 0.07, so 7 million sats per person, and you could buy that for $4,600 today.
Damn.
So we're still really early.
That's wild. That's
Yeah.
that's very attainable. Again, like when you lay out the math like that, I mean the even global distribution is for anybody in the West, that's very attainable. That's like, I I've got an extra $100 kicking around, so I'll snag my portion of the Bitcoin supply forever. And on top of that, you got to think, like, once you get that equal distribution of it, that's not accounting for lost coins, and it's also not accounting for increases in population size, right?
Exactly.
So if population grows, like you already, your percentage of the pie is disproportionate, right?
Right. And if you start thinking about the math, right, like you've got to be able to protect that wealth. And so for me, the last 24 months, 36 months have been really focused on protection and what the future looks like, from not necessarily protecting that wealth, but also how to utilize that wealth to generate a yield. And which is the most fascinating part about Bitcoin to me in the future, is generating a yield off of your Bitcoin to be able to utilize it. And to me, that's where the wealth becomes really valuable, right? Like the reason rich people get rich is because they buy assets, not because they sell assets, right? Like wealthy people buy expensive real estate and then they hold on to it for hundreds of years. They don't buy it and then sell it and brag about selling it. They brag about holding it.
Yeah.
And they're able to use that collateral to generate more fiat dollars to use for whatever they want to do. Yeah. And that makes me incredibly bullish. So when you start talking about generational wealth, it's like, yes, the financial rails are still being built here. And it's important to think about your stack relative to the rest of the world and how that all kind of works together and fits in the picture.
I like that. So, okay. So there's a couple things I want to like strings I want to pull on, or threads I want to pull on there, but I feel like this will link to your later reason for being bullish. So I'm gonna save my because there's a few like rabbit holes that I can tell we're just gonna like veer down when we get into those conversations. But like you said, the interesting thing about it in that sense was, like people don't get rich on the fiat they gained, right? Like as soon as you're back into fiat, you're losing purchasing power. Right. Really, what you're trying to attain is a percentage of the economy, right? Like the
assets.
A percentage of the useful stuff that exists. And when you've got a measuring stick or like a something that's supposed to represent a percentage of the economy, and somebody else can just make more of it at will and assign it to anybody other than you, or maybe give you a breadcrumb or a few, and it's disproportionate to everyone else or their buddies, then if your bank account was represented a percentage of all the stuff that existed, that number would continually go down. You are not the elite that gets the favors to increase that number at the end of the day, right?
Right. Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah. So, okay. I feel like this is going to kind of segue well. So I'm going to, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bow on this topic, and then I'm going to rotate, and then we'll just kind of, again, Jeff, I know that I'm going to go down some rabbit hole that you said there, and I know that people
I'm excited to be here. I've got my whiskey also.
There we go. This is what I need. I feel like I'm on the wine here, and it's just I'm seeing the whiskey, and like I'm gonna have to. I'm texting my wife right now. I'm gonna rotate here. I'm gonna toss it to Tatum first. Okay. Because I want to kind of, because I'll get a whiskey in me before I start going down those rabbit holes with you. So Tatum, I'm going to toss it to you, and also Adam. I love that topic and kind of where it led us. So thank you for that. Yeah, Tatum, same question to you as everybody gets today, and I know it changes every day, but why are you bullish?
I was trying to do this thing where I was just going to be like, I'm bullish on between two ASICs, then play my song and like do a promo thing. It was some stupid joke, but I am bullish on between two ASICs though. But I am actually in the same realm. I'm actually bullish on mining because I've had some not doubts really, but kind of just some real big question marks over the past couple of months leading into the halving. But as we get closer, it's all becoming more clear, and I'm super bullish on mining for various reasons. One, the consistent competition between manufacturers to get the latest and greatest machine. Like just today, Bitmain announced the S21 Pro with a boasted 15 joules per terahash efficiency, which is, if you are not familiar, that is unheard of and insane and absolutely bonkers. But also in a completely opposite way, I'm bullish on mining in the pleb miner and the individual, the rabbits, as Bob Burnett says, the people who have anything from maybe a small shed of a couple J Pros or a couple space heaters or one space heater S9 or even a BitAxe or an Apollo or some lottery ticket miner, as some people say, because I have some like doomsday theories that like I just like playing out different scenarios in my head of what could happen, because if you're new to the space, anything could happen. But I mean, like even down to the government seizure of mining companies, that essentially will fix centralization of mining, and everyone who has any sort of hash that they control themselves, that's going to be the Bitcoin network at that point. It goes a lot deeper than just like I wonder if the government is going to take my mining pools away today. But that's one thing that I'm really thinking about. And mining, when I say I'm a degenerate miner, I'm an absolute degenerate miner. So if you look at the thumbnail, I have an ASIC chip on my tongue that looks like an LSD tab. So yeah, overall, just super bullish on mining and the developments that are coming, and the plebs who are building mining to become a pleb game again, because unfortunately right now mining it's not sexy. It's not a plebs game anymore. But I think that it will be in due time, very, very soon.
I
It's
like
a little rant. Sorry about that.
No, it's good. So the reason I like this is I think it's John who runs oh God, why am I forgetting the name of it? The just like is really simple Apollo. What's the
John, the future bit. Future bit Apollo,
yeah. So he makes a good point in and around if every person just kind of ran one of these, little mini miners in their home, it would like far surpass existing hash. Like it would just like outpace everything. And so like the strength in numbers would be staggering. And I love that idea. And I love the idea of just, and I don't know how exactly you would market it. Maybe you'd be given fiat land. Maybe you'd market it as like pay once and get a forever lottery ticket, right? Like and just solo mine the shit out of everything.
I've got an idea on this, right?
Yeah.
Throughout, I live in the United States, so when I think of America, right? But most of America is hot, and everybody's got a big ass air conditioner unit, right? It's huge. And it takes up a big part of their property. I'm imagining a world where there's like solar panels that are EMP proof, and you've got a big ass miner or like a bunch of miners set up right next to your air conditioner panel, and they're permanent. Does that increase the value of your property? I think so. if you're thinking about Bitcoin as the future, right? And if people are Bitcoiners, if you go to buy a property and you've got a full-on Bitcoin miner and you can like control the reward of that Bitcoin mining infrastructure and, you know, the energy created off of your solar panels, I think if you start, yeah, go ahead.
One better than that. What if, like, so you live in the US where it's hot. I live in Canada where it's always cold. What if your furnace was just a Bitcoin miner?
Right.
Like,
right. Exactly. Exactly.
It is personally offensive to me that people in the world burn gas to get heat and do not have Bitcoin in the middle. Like the act of burning gas should be to get Bitcoin, and then we get heat as a byproduct. Heat is the byproduct. Bitcoin is the product. Right now, the furnace companies, everyone has it wrong. They think heat is the product. That is a byproduct of burning gas. Bitcoin allows us to dump monetary value in the middle. Am I screaming, Ben? You're like taking your
no, you're good. You're good.
It is. Yeah. I actually believe that mining is going to split here, where institutional mining that we have now are just going to be energy production companies, because they're the only companies on planet Earth that are truly incentivized to get cheap, like renewable sources of power. That'll be institutional mining. And then retail is going to make up the majority of Bitcoin mining in, 10, 15 years, because every single furnace company is going to just dump mining chips into it. And furnaces only last, like right now, furnaces are made like garbage cans. They last 10, 15 years max. That's like totally reasonable for, what the future of Bitcoin ASIC chips are going to be. And I think that it won't even be marketed as a Bitcoin. It'll just be a furnace that is subsidized by the sellers. Like the manufacturers will just take the coins, and that's what will subsidize furnace things. And what will be better is you buy the furnace outright. You then have the Bitcoin coming into your household, and you stack generational wealth. This is like, I bought it, it's an early stage product, but I bought a space heater that's literally just a Bitcoin miner. It's stunning. It's gorgeous. It looks really beautiful. It's like, it's the less cypherpunk version of the S9 with the crypto cloak that we've all had and seen and built. But that's the future is using electricity that was previously just for heat for Bitcoin and then still getting heat. So I love your concept. I'm like my furnace runs 8 months of the year. Like, it's right now, it's literally, I woke up, it's -10 outside. Like it's freezing cold here. And my furnace is running and doesn't have a Bitcoin, miner in the middle. And that's just plain garbage.
Yeah, my boiler is on its last year, and I'm hoping that there's a product in the next year that I can replace it.
There fully should be. I mean, think about like, what do you use heat for? Like your hot tub, your hot water tank, your furnace, like everything. If it's heat related, if it throws heat in any capacity, it should just be a Bitcoin miner.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
I'm catching
Sessions. Come say hello.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
She heard you. She heard you through the microphone. Yeah, you should wave to him. She's here. She's saying hi. Yeah.
Here, wait. Look at this. Watch.
Yeah. Do you happen to have an Apple product, Adam?
What gave it away? Watch this.
I love how like
so fast. My math.
I love how like I'll be on a call, like a work call, and then all of a sudden fireworks, and I'm like, guys, it's not even their fault though. It's like, why did we force this up? Sovereignty. This is an
I was doing one-on-one sessions with people, and on one day I was like, yeah, good job, and then it did like the thumbs up, and I was like, and then my screen froze, and I was like, anyways, yeah. Okay, so in regards to Jeff, you were saying, oh, there's got to be a product or something. So there's a company out of actually where me and Adam are. in Alberta, and they're called Cryptotherm, and they are starting to specialize in like when it's time to replace your boiler or time to replace your heater, then you can get their system installed as an option for something like that. There's another company called Nakamoto Heating, I believe, and I think they're in that realm as well. And yeah, so like if you got a brand new, like if you just moved into a new build, it doesn't make sense to tear out your existing system and put one in. But if it's time for a replacement, it might be yeah, exactly that meme. Yes,
Right.
it might be that time. And then the other thing that I've got it doesn't make sense for me to just plug it in right now, but I've got an M30 Plus sitting here, and what I'm thinking is, well, a couple of things. I don't have a garage right now. Eventually, we're going to build one, and then that will just be the heating source for it. But what I would like to do is one or two things, or maybe both. But I want to do a hot tub heated by that device, so immersion. But I really want a sauna, like an outdoor, like one of those ones that looks like a barrel, and I want that heated by an ASIC. So that's another possibility. And then the last thing that I was thinking is, and this will be later when my kids are older and like they don't play in the yard anymore, but I want the entire side of my house to just be a big greenhouse, and I want to heat it with an ASIC, and then we'll have to have like some sort of like humidity control so that all the plants don't just like dry out instantly. But yeah,
It's
so
a dry heat.
Yeah, I think that what we're gonna see eventually. I had this conversation with someone. We're gonna and also just to preface what I'm about to say, and I do a bad job of it too, considering my show is called Between Two ASICs. But the an ASIC is actually a singular chip. Like in an S19J Pro, there's whatever 126 times 3 is. So I'm actually between several hundred ASICs. But I've started to call them ASIC miners just to be more specific with it, because I think that, like, I mean, it's not knocking anyone for thinking an ASIC being a Bitcoin miner, like just the actual computer, because that's what they're typically like. That's what we associate it with. However, I think I'm starting to say ASIC miners because I think there's going to be ASICs implemented in other devices that are not specifically for mining Bitcoin. There's going to be damn it. Look, that was fair. That was fair. Actually, the reason I say all that, not to flex, but the reason I say all that is that I think that ASIC chips are actually going to be implemented into other devices that you are going to use without knowing that it's a Bitcoin miner. Like maybe it might be marketed that way and not malicious, where microwave manufacturers are just cramming ASIC chips into their microwaves so they get the Bitcoin when you use it. But like I'm talking, you're going to have these warehouses of for literally any industry, any production, anything like that are going to have some sort of ASIC integration into their HVAC system, into their into whatever power that they're pulling to recycle that properly, rather than just plugging in a box to it, like a S19J Pro or anything like that. But the problem is that they're so niche, I guess, that and they require such specialization to program to work efficiently, that it's going to take a lot of development, and it's going to take an ASIC manufacturer to team up with some random regular industry like microwaves or something like that. I don't ever think that microwaves are actually going to, I used to think like, what if when I turn my microwave on, that's when I mine the Bitcoin? I don't think it's going to happen. But I do think that I do think that that ASIC chips are going to be, we're pretty far out, but they're going to be implemented in things that you don't even realize as Bitcoin miners. And
I think
Granted, it may only be a little bit of a hash rate, but like you said, strength in numbers, that's gonna add up to where it's not gonna be. Everyone hates to hear this, but it's true. Mining is centralized, and I think that that's going to be a big solver of that problem.
Yeah, I think it probably starts in the industrial, like heating schools and hospitals and big buildings, because they're gonna need ways to subsidize. There's a company in Vancouver that's working with I think a whiskey distillery that's like set up the mining infrastructure in a whiskey distillery. Yeah. Greenmint. It's I think that's where it goes, man. It just takes Bitcoin entrepreneurs that see the future of what Bitcoin mining is to make it happen. I think it's absolutely dynamite. I'm super bullish on the decentralization of mining in the future. And yeah, man, like I said, it's bloody offensive that we just burn gas and don't expect, as consumers, we should just demand Bitcoin in the middle. It should offend all of us that there is no Bitcoin coming out of our furnace.
Go ahead.
I've got 2 points on that, and it kind of ties to another point, Tatum, that you brought up. Is one, I think there's probably incentive for the government to, at some point in the future, to incentivize and potentially subsidize that. And two, Tatum, you brought up seizure being a concern from the government. I think, again, in thinking through the game theory of how the government is going to view Bitcoin, ultimately, I personally believe they're going to get to a point where it's better for them to lean into it as opposed to try to prevent it. And at that point, I think they're likely going to want to protect the miners more than try to seize the miners, because they want that production to happen in their country, as long as that's contributing to the further economic production within that region. So I could see a world where, one, either mining is potentially subsidized or it's thoroughly protected by the government at some point in the future. I'm more optimist, right? Like, there's definitely the pessimist view, but I like to think that the incentives are in the favor of that.
Right. That's the whole preference. That's the whole premise of 51% attack. It's like, if you have enough power to do a 51% attack, it is way more beneficial to just mine Bitcoin and use the network and lean into it. So it's like I also am curious, because I would, as the anarcho, I've been called a diet anarchist before. I don't know where the diet came from, obviously, but I've always thought of the government intervention as negative, but I definitely do, based on what you're saying, see that there could be a possibility of a positive intervention from the government. It's going to be interesting to watch play out for sure, because they are going to get involved some way or the other.
Yes. Yeah. But if you think about it, right, like, let's say you've got a lot of your mining power is in Central America, and America owns, I don't know, 200,000 Bitcoin, and they want that production to continue to happen in America, not elsewhere outside of America. There's incentive to protect the mining community and grow the mining community, as opposed to thwart it and shove it down. So the incentive structure and the way that Bitcoin is designed is all around these incentive structures. And I think they'll get there. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah, I could see to the point about governments protecting miners and incentivizing it. I think we get there eventually. I think that governments are too stupid right now, and they haven't yet.
You guys are giving the government so much credit here.
Yeah,
we think we're gonna use logic to determine economic activity and protect it.
Nah.
Yeah, it's so I think that somewhere the general sequence of events are Bitcoin continues to number go up, continues that exacerbates number go down of all fiat currencies. the fiat currencies that fail first are the governments most likely to, oh, fuck you, Tatum, whatever. The fiat currencies that fail first are the ones where the governments are most likely to recognize the value of Bitcoin and thus then start down the mining rabbit hole and so on and so forth. Whereas the ones that still have, the ability to have the exorbitant privilege of printing money that other people still see value in and use, will use that value as much as possible. And they may understand mining at the time simultaneously and try to capitalize on that. But eventually we get to a place where it's like, no, we want miners to be here. We think it's beneficial us having X amount of hash rate within our borders. And then we also are trying to incentivize people to come to our jurisdiction because that sovereign individual thesis is beginning to play out and people are jurisdiction shopping and so on and so forth. A lot of shit happens when you can't export your inflation anymore, right? Like there's a lot of things that come along with that.
I mean, do you know who the largest holder of gold is?
No.
It's the U.S. It's the U.S.
Still?
They have 8,000 tons. It might be more than that. Maybe it's 800,000. Anyway, they have like 10 times more than next closest country.
Crazy.
Damn.
What is their gold to dollar ratio? Do you know?
That's a good question. That's a Google. I'm not gonna be able to answer that. But like they in the history of money, like their whole goal was to get more wealth than anybody else, and they did that with gold. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some trajectory in the future where they try to do the same with Bitcoin.
They kind of did it illegally, though.
Oh yeah,
This is a 6102 executive order for those that don't know.
Yeah, I mean, different political environment. Obviously, there's a lot. The landscape was significantly different. But yeah,
I think the landscape was kind of similar to what it is today. Like
it voted 90% Democrat.
Right, but look at the messaging. Like when Executive Order 6102 came in, they did it to incentivize economic spending. Roosevelt came out and said, we're in a recession. This is so bad. We need to incentivize spending. What are we going to do? And steal the gold was the best option to incentivize spending. And that's what, all that fiat money coming in is what sparked spending, which is what took them out of the dirty 30s, but at the detriment of like us. And 2 generations later, just get absolutely bent over with Roosevelt's like cock. For everyone to suffer.
I mean, if you think about gold, though, it's I don't need to explain Bitcoin to Bitcoiners, but like, right? I walked around the street, around the block the other day with my cold storage wallet in my pocket just for liberation's sake, and like I couldn't do that with the amount of like gold I could buy. Same amount of, and so like the people are much more mobile now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's what that's literally the benefit of Bitcoin over gold, is that 6102 is not possible when Bitcoin is sitting in your individual
I lost it.
storage.
I lost it
right.
in a boat accident.
In a boating accident. I think that's the single greatest advent of Bitcoin, which is why, and maybe we'll get into it shortly here, Jeff, but like when people think they have Bitcoin that's sitting outside of their sole control, it irks me because, you're exposed to, at best, a honeypot, and at worst, like 6102. And if we are we not, I mean, maybe I'll let you start because this is probably
this is probably getting into why I'm bullish.
But like,
before we
not
go
hearing this language of 6102 and economic spending and like we need, eat the rich, like we're hearing this right now. So yeah, it's
I'm going to tap on one thing that Adam, that you said earlier, and then I think I'll segue into Jeff's reason. So, and cheers, Jeff. My lovely wife brought me in my little whiskey glass. Now, what are you sipping on? That looks Japanese.
Yeah, I've got a Kashi, a single malt Japanese.
Ooh, very nice. I'm drinking something called Basil Hayden, It's got a red wine cask finish, and it was for my birthday. It has like a metal band around it, so I think it's fancy.
That's fancy. Yeah, absolutely fancy.
Yeah. So
But it's better than Canadian growers, I guess, right?
yes, I think so. Yeah. So I want to tap on something before we kind of segue into your reason for being bullish, and that's one thing that Adam said. Adam, you said, what's their gold to dollar ratio? And the beautiful thing about that question is it highlights how unique Bitcoin is, because when you said how much gold do they have versus how many dollars do exist, and the answer is nobody can know either of those.
No one has any idea.
Like it's just,
wasn't it Nico tweeted that the other day? Like, here's the last time Fort Knox was audited was like 1970. Well, probably when the dollar was disbanded in 74.
Yeah.
How do you know it's not iron in there that's painted gold?
Yeah, exactly. There was some guy on X the other day, and he tried to dunk on Bitcoin. He's like, this is the new logo for Bitcoin. And it was a gold bar split in half that was just filled with lead and like gold plated around it. And everybody was like, I don't think you understand the irony of posting this as a dunk on Bitcoin, because every person running a Bitcoin node can independently verify the validity of their Bitcoin with no additional effort other than just receiving it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's so sick about the Bitwise showing proof of reserves.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most transparent investment product in the globe.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
like El Salvador, dude, when Bukele posted his address, that was like
savage.
That's unreal. That's just so sick.
Yeah,
it's a cool concept that, I love the idea of if governments have a Bitcoin treasury, I love the idea of publicly audible addresses and regular message signing with the keys to prove that they still have access to it. So like regular, this is the Alberta government, or this is the Canadian government, or this is the El Salvador government, or this is, and I do those in order of just where I am. But like, this is this government, we have the following keys, we're signing this message that pertains to these addresses, we own this and we still have access. And having I'm of the opinion that as an individual managing your own finances, you should have the utmost assumption of innocence until proven guilty and the utmost privacy. But as an individual or an entity that has to take care of other people's wealth, you deserve the utmost scrutiny and absolute transparency in everything that you do. And so every person should be able to independently audit what's there at all times. And you should have regular key checks proving that you have what you say you have.
Whew. Say less.
But yeah, I mean, but this is something that Bitcoin allows us, right? This is something that can be done, and I see the tools being built for it right now, and that's super awesome, right? So with that, I'm going to now rotate. I'm going to toss it to Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to ask you the same question everybody gets, and that is, why are you bullish, my friend?
Okay. I'm bullish for a lot of reasons. We're in an exciting time. But I'm going to talk about MicroStrategy a little bit, just because that's I've got some expertise. I've spent a lot of time analyzing this and thinking through this. So I am bullish because Michael Saylor is leveraging an aging fiat infrastructure and design to onboard traditional finance onto the Bitcoin network at an accelerated speed. I'm going to stop there. He has raised $1.4 billion in the last month to buy Bitcoin through his company, which will onload more money into the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin ecosystem. It is moving faster than the Bitcoin ETFs. It is moving faster than retail can move. And it will have the ability to onboard more traditional finance in perpetuity to the Bitcoin network. So that is one reason I'm incredibly bullish.
Damn, I I don't know if I want to dive into this first, or if Adam, you look like you had some thoughts. Maybe you want to.
Yeah, no,
it's polarizing. It's
Mhm.
super polarizing, and I love talking about it. So like we can talk about any topics anywhere you want to go with this.
It's definitely like, I agree with what you said, that he's onboarding TradFi at an alarming rate. And frankly, I think he's doing it right, where he's got a business, a core business that prints cash. He uses the cash to pay debt, and he's able to stack, earlier. But I think there's a potential flaw in there's the immediate flaw, and then the general, overarching potential flaw, where MicroStrategies is still a centralized entity. People could think that buying that is better than Bitcoin, which is a problem. And Saylor himself, I think that is a problem.
That's a problem. Yeah.
But the way that he's doing it should be a note to other institutions on what to do with your profits and how to leverage your P&L for the benefit of your company. However, like we talked about it earlier, we hinted on it earlier, is Bitcoin, we kind of hinted at the investment versus the savings like aspect, and how, when you invest in something, you're immediately looking at the price to sell, to do what? Like, to just like, what are you going to trade your Bitcoin for dollars? You like lettuce-handed buffoon? Like why are you doing that? And when you save in something, you want to accumulate. Well, when you're accumulating something, you want to accumulate as much as possible. And so, like, Saylor is a little bit pricing us out. He's certainly pricing my kids out of mass accumulation game for the benefit of the bag holder. And like, the bag holder isn't necessarily here for freedom, here for his great granddaughter, here for the lady whose husband was in jail, and Bitcoin saved her. So I don't think, I think it prevents us from accumulating more sats. And I mean, like, think about a world where if every single company took that approach, let's just say every company worth 100 billion or more took that approach, there could be a world where Bitcoin skyrockets, right? Like, let's say way earlier than it should. Let's say it's worth 150 million US dollars, way before that epoch makes sense, and way before fiat has fell to that level, because the scarcity of supply is there. But then if that can happen, like, the reverse can happen. And inevitably, like, when that debt comes due, Saylor's got a dump. And that's gonna
no.
How do you figure? You think he's gonna leverage his coins?
He has 12 times more assets than he does debt at the moment.
Yeah,
like,
so then 1/12 of his debt has to get sold to pay it back.
No, that's not how the traditional finance system works. He can refinance debt. You can always take out more debt. The capital markets like always exist. I understand your perspective, but I think, and I think this is a challenging topic, right? Because it's easy to go to like straight to hyper Bitcoinization without understanding a transition.
Right.
There's got to be a transition. Like, there will be a transition. There will always be fiat dollars for the next like 20 years. So how do we get there? And how do we onboard the world? And I think MicroStrategy will be the liquidity bringing like more money to the world. They're like the road and the vehicle by which onboards traditional finance into the Bitcoin ecosystem. They're also providing proof of concept for generating a yield on your cold storage Bitcoin. Like, without them, it's like,
how do you figure that? Walk me through that.
So
Generating yield.
if you think about, so I'm a TradFi guy. I'm a big finance guy. So I work with big dollars. Big companies have the benefit of holding tons of assets that you can use as collateral to get more beneficial terms than retail investors can get.
Right. But most of those assets though are either like fixed or protected, and Bitcoin is neither. Meaning, like, you know, look at property, right? Property is like a pretty common one that somebody would own or hold. Like, if you lose the title to your property, you just go to the property title place and get a new one.
Title company, get a new title.
Yeah, like you're not really
right.
And like you're not going to lose the building because it's like nailed to the floor.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like relatively safe, right? You feel comfortable giving up your collateral in your building because like you're not going to lose it, and the title is just fake. So who cares if you lose that?
Yeah.
But when you give up your private key, like let's say you're using my company, I'm going to take your Bitcoin and give you a loan, and you take the loan and you do something else with it, and then I have you know, a flaw in my storage because I'm dumb. Well,
yep.
like someone else can just steal your Bitcoin. Like you trusted me with your Bitcoin,
yeah,
and I gave you favorable terms or unfavorable terms, whatever they are. And I said, don't worry, our security is very good. And it wasn't, because it's a honeypot, or because I have a rogue employee, or because I'm a bad guy, or whatever. And that's, I think, the greatest divide between these traditional collateral assets and Bitcoin is that if you lose Bitcoin, it's gone. No asset on planet Earth has like acted this way. Like, you know, the banking system, the collateral asset system, when you lose it, you just print another one. But with Bitcoin, you don't get to do that.
Yeah. Yes and no. I agree to disagree. I've got a couple of things on that. Where was I going to go with this?
Can I
say your last point again? Oh man, I was
just
in
that
there.
Like properties nailed to the floor. And
yeah,
like you're not going to lose property, but you can lose Bitcoin.
Here we go. Okay, let's think about a Bitcoin future, right? How does an economy work? How does the current economy work? Like, how do businesses work?
So the business produces value that consumers want to consume, and so.
But if you had a business idea, how would you go start it without any money?
Right. Yes. So this is exactly where, like you're mentioning, the TradFi need. You got to go borrow money. You got to have someone believe in your vision and either borrow or sell future equity to do that.
You need two things, right? You need lending and you need insurance for an economy to work.
I'm not sure about the insurance part, but you definitely need startup capital.
Without insurance, the world would be too risky to do anything.
Anything though?
I think without insurance, our litigious culture would fall down. But without litigation,
think about the cargo. Think about cargo.
Yeah.
Think about if your cargo ship was not insured. Think about how you get your goods.
Well, all insurance is paying someone else for risk, right? So
yeah,
there is a like I self-insure most all of my assets because like I just don't trust that the insurers will come to my aid when I need them. But I'm on a small scale too, right? For sure, cargo and there's all kinds. There's a whole rigmarole around the finance games and the insurance. But I don't know that we need debt. There is a world.
Do you mind if I just
get in here, Ben?
I think I'm somewhere in between. So I think that we'll have a hybrid, but I think, you know, like Jeff, you're in this kind of, as you said, like you're coming from a TradFi kind of fiat's still going to exist and everything. And
for a while,
Adam, you know, yeah, for a while. And also I like that you're like, clearly in your brain, you're like, I'll throw out a conservative number of how long fiat's going to be around. You're like 20 years, which is great. But nonetheless, so you're coming from like, okay, fiat existing. I think maybe myself along with Adam a little bit, we're thinking kind of maybe beyond like a post fiat world. You know, in when Bitcoin is kind of more like in a world where Bitcoin is more widely used as just money, and that's kind of like the medium of exchange. I think we end up in a place where, one, as Adam alluded to, you may not require debt to get an idea off the ground. You may you may just have a skill or you may, be just like, get a job, save some money because you're spending less than you earn, put money aside to then fund a new venture that you can then create and kind of like bootstrap it a little bit more organically, and it gradually grows and so on and so forth. And I think that there will still be instances of people borrowing to get stuff off the ground. I don't think that's going away, but I think that it will be in a world where people are a lot more conscientious of where they put their capital when, as Adam is saying, like there's no take backsies, right? Like it goes into somebody's wallet, and if they fuck around, you get to find out in those scenarios, right? And so I think we get to a situation, again, this is post fiat, because fiat, as long as fiat's still around, the fuckery is afoot, right? Like there's always a way to get bailed out. There's always like more fiat to like fill in the holes, and there's always rehypothecation and fractional. There's all that kind of stuff. But on a Bitcoin standard, a lot of that stuff is kept much more in check, and it's I don't think it disappears, but it's greatly reduced, and people more accurately assess the risk because there is risk, and it's a lot more prevalent. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, right? I mean, we're talking about a 15-year-old asset, so it's hard to understand what like 15 years from now what multi-sig vaults and wallets look like, which could be far more complex and far more business conducive. Like the risk can be mitigated in the future. I think it's naive to think that it won't.
I think you, to a point, you are. And just a side note, anybody watching, check out what Anchor Watch is doing in and around multi-sig.
Yeah. I connected with Becca at Anchor Watch a couple months ago. I think they've got it. So their infrastructure and their design effectively provides the financial backstop for corporations like the FDIC would, like today with banks. And that design makes it far more favorable for a corporation to hold Bitcoin in perpetuity because they know they have some insurance potentially sitting behind it. It's a really fascinating concept. I think the proof of concept will bear out in the next decade for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. And it was exactly that same person. I when I was in Madeira just like a few weeks ago, I was at dinner and I sat beside Becca and I asked her about Anchor Watch. And then an hour and a half later of me being silent and her like ranting about everything they're doing, I was like, holy shit, I had no concept of anything that was possible in and around multi-sig. And now like my mind is blown. So yeah, her and Rob and everybody at Anchor Watch is like so far ahead.
I had lunch with Becca and it ruined like my next couple of weeks. Like I was just like, my brain was like, oh my god.
No, they're definitely doing really, really cool stuff, and I love the fact that what they're doing in and around multi-sig, it doesn't require changes to Bitcoin. They're just using Miniscript, and they're just doing awesome things with it. But it's quite the feat what they've pulled off and what you're going to be seeing from them pretty soon.
So I want to talk about MicroStrategy a little bit more. And Adam, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I think this is a really off the wall concept, but I find it really fascinating. So I don't know how much you understand or study the stock market, but within the stock market, there are dark pools. Dark pools are where big trades happen in behind the scenes. So like anybody that's moving hundreds of millions of dollars of shares, it happens off network, and you don't see those transactions happen to avoid massive changes in the price. Now, when you think about a future Bitcoin world where 99% of the Bitcoin has been mined and there's far less Bitcoin available on exchanges, how does an entity or a company or a country buy thousands of Bitcoin in one fell swoop?
Yes, this is the question. You don't. But that's the point, is that we can't introduce new fiat just or like new money. New money can't come in unless there's an equal trade for value. If I give you X sats worth of value, then I get those X sats because I have done the work in the past to earn that, and I trade it. The only way for a company to give you to earn sats is to earn the sats, to spend less than they generate. The way for a country to earn is to use the resources that that country has to mine or produce value to also earn the sats.
So here's I can see MicroStrategy being a bank of the future, where they provide liquidity for dark pool transactions because they are the ones with liquidity.
I think dark pool transactions are a thing of the past. The only reason they exist is because we've got this fiat ecosystem that is out of balance, right? We know the fiat ecosystem.
Hold on, let's define dark pool transactions for anybody that's watching. That's like what? I missed that.
A dark pool transaction would be something that's not happening on an exchange and happens over time behind the scenes. So how I'm imagining this is Saudi Arabia goes to BlackRock and says, I want to buy 5,000 Bitcoin via your ETF. But there's only 1,000 Bitcoin being traded on exchanges at any one time. Mm-hmm. And so BlackRock wouldn't want to buy all 1,000 of the Bitcoin trading on exchanges because that would rocket the price because there would be no more Bitcoin left trading on the margin. I'm imagining a world where they would borrow the Bitcoin needed in the interim from Saylor or somebody else to buy that amount of Bitcoin over time in order to minimize the price volatility of Bitcoin so it doesn't run away.
Hold on. They
go ahead, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, they borrow Bitcoin at X the interest rate. And is this current fiat land, or is
it's in between? It's like the transition time. This isn't really off the wall. This is a really off the wall idea, but like Bitcoin is the best collateral in the world. Mm-hmm. So if BlackRock fails that transaction, MicroStrategy owns BlackRock. That's collateral.
I think we're giving too much power to government here and to countries here who within the fiat regime, which I think I saw it in the chat earlier. Let's back up. Saifedean had this wicked take. Take your time. Yeah. Saifedean had this wicked take about the transition to Bitcoin relating to the transition to gunpowder. And we look at technology kind of like this, right? It's like, oh, look at these cute graphs, look at these cute curves. Like the internet adoption was so nice and it was gradually, and then and then that bell curve that comes in and off we go. But if we look at the adoption of gunpowder, it's like this. It's
vertical, it's straight vertical. Yeah. It's
vertical because if you don't adopt gunpowder, you just die. It's just like I'm coming to my fight with my spear. And the guy's whatever, 100 feet away, you're dead. See you later. Nice try. So you either died or you adopted. And that's why it's just straight vertical. And so I think that when we say Saudi Arabia is going to come in with their big swinging dick because that's what they've done in the past, the answer is just no. You don't get to manipulate this environment. You don't get to print more of your garbage war dollars to buy my precious asset. And so I don't know that this is literally the power of Bitcoin is it puts governments in their place. It puts governments in a spot where they don't have power. You can't just come swing your tiny cock around that is fiat inflated and think you're going to win. You just
but hold on there. But hold on there. Think about the incentives. Right? BlackRock has the incentive. They're going to get paid 20 basis points on $200 billion.
In what though? In a dollar that's inflating at 400% a year? Is that enough? Is 20 basis points enough to give up your hard asset, to give up the asset that can't be undone, to give up the asset that is literally programmed to have no cap? Is 20 basis points enough to take something that's inflating? Because I wouldn't take Venezuelan dollars. I wouldn't take pesos. I wouldn't take the Turkish lira. I wouldn't take the franc.
I hear you. I hear you.
The US
But-
dollar is crumbling.
Where does that threshold happen then? So like Jeff, when you're looking at this, like you I know you just kind of threw out like, oh, 20 years from now, like here's the interim, but like how long do you see this type of, again, because it is like a very kind of, I don't know, do you consider a fiat based mechanism that you're kind of describing here?
Yeah, I think it's probably near that 2034 time horizon. Like when 99% of the Bitcoin is mined, the world's going to look way different than it does today. The dollar is still going to be here, though.
But at what price?
It doesn't matter. It's like,
well, the Venezuelan dollar still exists. It's just useless.
But people still use it, and like the government's still going to use it. You're like, I'm going to pay my taxes in it. Like if I'm still working in America,
pay your taxes in Bitcoin at bitcoinwell.com if you wanted.
Shameless plug it there.
I like. Okay, so what I will say, so I'm going to play devil's advocate too, because the reason I'm saying this, because I'm mostly like, I'm on the wavelength of Adam, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. I'm going to outline a conversation that I had with my barber, and he's from Lebanon.
Okay.
And so, I'm low key, gradually orange pilling him over time, and he's kind of interested. I think his buddy at the barbershop got burned on like Luna or some shit. So like, he's cautious, but So anyways, so I'm chatting to him, and he goes back to Lebanon from time to time for family, all that. And so I brought up the other day, I was like, oh shit, like it's been kind of crazy there with hyperinflation. I saw people like, protests, and people get like, running into banks and like demanding their money back and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, oh well. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, it's not as bad as you say. And I'm like, okay, so no, but tell me, like, elaborate on that, because it sounds like everybody lost all their money. He's like, oh no, they absolutely did. But the thing is, when you've saved up your entire life and then you lose everything, you lose 99.9%, and then and it's just gone, like you're really, really angry when it happens, and your currency is shit. And then what happens after? Well, you just kind of like you already lost all your savings. And so then what? Well, then you keep working, because you just you already lost it all. You have to, and you're earning the local currency, and now your behaviors just shift a little bit, and you just spend your paycheck faster, and you buy whatever the hell you need. But like the damage is already done, the money's already gone, you already don't have any savings. And so people have just like, this shock happened, and there was the massive like, and this is why there's not riots in the street, because it happens all at once. Everybody freaks the fuck out. They set fire to some banks, or they hold up some banks to be able to take out their own money, and then it's done. And then they recognize that the currency is shit, and they're just kind of like, well, I'm earning it, and then I'm just gonna like spend it right away and like get the things that I need right away, and I won't do that anymore. And so like, yeah, the currency, and the most worrying, this conversation was most worrying for me, because I was like, think of how much worse it would have to get in the West to replicate what happened in Lebanon. And he's saying, well, it happened, and then we just continued living, and I guess our currency just sucks now. Like,
it could take a long time. It could take a really, really, really long time.
And it worries me. It worries me that like, and it worries me mostly not for myself, because like everybody on this call, we've already opted out, right? We've already said like, geez, our currency really sucks, and we've got some of the best currencies out of all of the crappy options, and we've just decided not to use them anymore. But I'm worried for the people that I know that don't understand what's coming, and that will be that guy that's like, well, I guess I lost everything and everything's horrible now, but I guess now I'll just continue working forever, and I'll just spend my money really fast. And imagine that life. And that's super unfortunate.
It sucks. It totally sucks. I think that the really frustrating part is like money, the concept of money is almost genetic, right? Like you just start living in this world, and like what you know about money is what your parents taught you about money, and what they know about money is what their parents taught them about money. And that's just kind of like all you know.
Yeah.
And it's hard to break that like genetic predisposition to what you know about money. And it's going to take a long time in order to really break the mold and break off from that, I think.
Yeah. I want to let you finish because we got on some tangents there. I want to let you like.
My bad.
It's all good. It's all good. These are great points. Yeah.
I want you to kind of get out. You said you wanted to go on a little bit of like a MicroStrategy tangent there. So like I want to let you have that before I'm conscious of time. I got to round out in a little bit, but I want you to get down your points here.
Let's do it pretty quick. What MicroStrategy is doing, and Michael Saylor is doing, is the biggest financial move in the history of finance, hands down. Right? Nobody has ever done this before. Nobody has moved their currency from one currency to another currency, let alone the strongest currency in the entire planet. They have 10 times more than any other company in the entire stock market. If you start to think about how much money it would take for any other company to catch them, it's pretty staggering to think about. Right? Like if you're talking about $12 billion worth of Bitcoin today, if you were to have a new entrant come in and buy $12 billion worth of Bitcoin, it wouldn't cost $12 billion. It'd probably cost 60 to 70 because it would run up the price, right? It would rocket up the price. So who's got $60 billion or $100 billion that can catch them? And there's probably two companies in my mind in the entire stock market that could possibly do it. It's Berkshire Hathaway, and they're never going to do it. And it's Meta. Right. And so they would have to act like today. They would have to start buying today. And they're probably not. So they got to get past their board and do all of that stuff. You know, Mark Zuckerberg's got 61% ownership rights. So maybe he could possibly do it, but he would have to move fast. So, you know, I've kind of gone on I've gone on Preston Pish's show, and, you know, I've put out some research on this. But when you zoom out and you start to look at MicroStrategy relative to any other company in the stock market, you start to look at their monopoly on Bitcoin holdings, I think they should probably be valued as such, as having a monopoly on Bitcoin holdings. They're currently a $30 billion market cap company, and the largest market cap company in the market right now is Microsoft at $3 trillion. So that's 100x from here. And in thinking about how the stock market works and the design of the stock market, the MicroStrategy shares are currently more rare than Bitcoin. I'm probably going to get flack for this. I'm going to take a step back. I'm a big advocate on Bitcoin cold storage. Like, you need to understand Bitcoin, and you need to have your Bitcoin stack figured out. And if you have any capital allocated in like 401ks or like tax advantaged accounts, and you're considering between a Bitcoin ETF or MicroStrategy, it's worth considering the potential of all of them before you allocate any assets. So that's my kind of disclaimer, right? Like, I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I also own MicroStrategy.
Impossible.
Because, you know, like,
there's a pitch for
like, but it's like, I'm not going to sell money out of my 401k, take a taxable event, and then pay a 10% penalty to go buy Bitcoin cold storage when I already know that I have multiples more than the average allocation if it were split evenly across the entire population, right? So like, I feel pretty comfortable with that.
There's an argument that you should, though.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
I love, but should you?
Yeah, I hear you. I get it. You know, this is probably the most debated thing on Twitter right now, is like how to allocate. It's like, there's no fucking right answer, and everybody's got their own perspective and their own goals and their own strategy and their own wealth perspective and like their own time horizon and their own like where their money is located, and all of that is a very uniquely personal and deeply personal equation that they need to figure out themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But my argument is that MicroStrategy should probably be valued as the most valuable company in the entire stock market. And that's like, period. I could put a period on it because they have more Bitcoin than anybody else, and I don't think anybody's going to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think that, okay, I see that argument, absolutely. The other thing that I think is that this particularly holds true in a hyper Bitcoinized world, because what does that collateral allow them to do and build with their company? Because at that point, like, let's say way down the road, everybody's got Bitcoin, it's already had like its crazy like S curve, and it's just kind of now gradually deflationary. In a world like that, if you invest in something, you're investing because you believe it's a better venture and will grow quicker than the gradual deflationary purchasing power of Bitcoin as is. And in that scenario, you're looking at companies that have like a massive treasury that can afford to build and do really cool shit and create value for a lot of people. And MicroStrategy is going to be uniquely positioned to be like, hey, we can build literally whatever the fuck we want, and we've got the treasury to back it up. And like,
come work for us. Come
Yeah.
work for us. We have the best stock plan and the best compensation plan in the entire market. And guess what? It's Bitcoin denominated.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be able to hire the best talent in the entire industry to build out whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
Bitcoin
It'll
denominated
be
salaries is unreal.
I'm there.
But I think, amen. I think though that the reason MicroStrategy is not currently valued as the most valuable company is because of physics, and they don't hold $3 trillion worth of Bitcoin, and the difference between them holding $3 trillion of Bitcoin like, we know they will eventually, but the fact that they are subject to regulation, are subject to like 6102, are subject to Coinbase's like problems, are subject to the volatility of the stock market. Like, if they're like, there was a time not long ago, like months ago, where if their share price fell, what was it, another 10%, half their stack was liquidated to pay that debt down. So the difference between, you know, they're valued at a massive premium to their current assets because it's Bitcoin, and they're already gaining that benefit, but they'll never be, you know, extraordinarily priced more so than whatever the premium on Bitcoin is going to be, because there's just significant risks and fiat games that can be played. Because MicroStrategies can go up at an insane rate, it can fall at an insane rate.
Volatile.
And when they go up at an insane rate, it's awesome. You print more shares and get more Bitcoin. It's like, hooray. But when they fall at an insane rate, it's like you just lose Bitcoin. and that risk is priced in. It's outsized priced in the bull markets, and it is extremely priced in the bear markets. And when the Bitcoin, go ahead.
I disagree. And I disagree because the design of the stock market is different than you outlined.
It's designed to concentrate.
So yeah, right. So MicroStrategy is a publicly traded entity that's included in exchange traded funds. Some of the largest, if you look at some of the largest entities that are traded in the stock market, they're traded at significant multiples, looking at 10, 20, 30-year time horizons. And the only reason they're looking at 10 to 20, 30-year time horizons, and the only way you're rationalizing it, is because of passive ETF money that's sitting in these companies. So MicroStrategy is in multiple market cap weighted index funds currently. So as their market cap increases, the relative weight of new dollars going into those index funds also increases. So their market cap is increasing at an increasing rate. And right now, their Bitcoin is, their cost basis on their Bitcoin is 32,000, 35,000, whatever it is. But it's significantly, we're in a completely different time frame than where we were in the last cycle, right? Fundamentally different. Their risk of liquidation is significantly less than what it was previously relative to their debt. Completely different time horizon. Additionally, you've got the potential of them getting added to the S&P 500, which represents 4 out of the 5 largest passively traded index ETFs in the globe. We're talking like potentially $20 to $30 billion of capital looking to buy MicroStrategy shares and never selling within the next 12 months. They're not currently part of the S&P 500. That's a huge whale on the horizon that literally buys every single day, every month. These are people investing their 401ks, insurance companies, pension funds that are passive zombies that don't know what they're doing. And that money is going to be flowing into MicroStrategy and they're not even going to know. And that concept is why the Mag 7 is valued so high. Because, like, for example, the S&P 500 index owns 6% of Apple. 6%. We're talking billions of shares. That's just the S&P 500. You're talking QQQ, Russell 1000. Like, this is fundamental design of the stock market, and it's flawed. And Michael Saylor is going to take advantage of that.
And I think he will. And well, I think he is.
He is.
I think that
I got to run in 7 minutes, by the way.
Okay.
So
cool.
I've got something very quick to say then.
Yeah.
You're talking about a system that is incestuous, that will continue to be incestuous until it ultimately collapses. And I think that just because the
converts.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't get to convert.
It's going to convert to Bitcoin.
I don't think it can. And the reason I don't think it can is because
dies.
of insurance and bureaucrats.
So your iPhone dies. Your Apple stock is dead.
Oh, those are bold. That's bold. Are you saying that the stock market in general dies, or like it just gets completely the basis of which it works is just completely retooled? Like where are you getting at, Adam?
Yeah, I think I'm getting at when you play the fiat games that exist inside the fiat world cannot all simultaneously be applied to Bitcoin without consequence. And I think that when we talk about this idea that companies have the same benefit to Bitcoin as individuals, I think we're missing the fact that the number go up technology that Bitcoin has is 10% of what gives Bitcoin value, because the government comes in and takes MicroStrategy's coins all day long. The guys holding MicroStrategy keys at Coinbase can steal those all day long. The share price, like we can see activist shareholders, and they're kind of getting priced out of this world right now. But there is a world where an activist shareholder who wants to accumulate Bitcoin with, I don't know, let's call it $30 billion, can come in, just short the fuck out of MicroStrategies, have their price collapsed, get those coins dumped, have the coin price fall, and then accumulate, make the gains on the short, and then simultaneously accumulate. Like, there's just fiat games that we can play. And so where I'll end this rant in the conservation of time is that I think those are a lot of great models, but all of your models are devastated, completely destroyed, and do not work in a hyper Bitcoinized world.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it. I think I just argued that there's a transition that occurs between.
Interesting.
I think.
Okay. I'm gonna cut the debate.
I love it.
Clearly, there's no.
We can keep going
in the 5 minutes that we have left. But what I will say is, I would be much more bullish on MicroStrategy if it's self-custodied. I would love that. I would love to see that, because that would, in my mind, would reduce the risk. Yes, of course, you're like
counterparty risk.
The counterparty risk, right? Like you're investing in MicroStrategy. You're trusting them that they're going to do something responsible with the Bitcoin. You are going to be diluted for your shares because they're going to sell more shares and buy more Bitcoin. But besides the point, with all of that, on top of that, you're stacking like, holy shit, Coinbase has how much Bitcoin for how many different people, and that's a big honeypot. Nonetheless, I do recognize
Not just Coinbase, by the way.
Yeah, not just Coinbase. Yeah, there's others too. Yeah. But nonetheless, the counterparty risk does factor into my valuation of things. And at the end of the day, I do recognize that, I mean, MicroStrategy as a company, they're fucking doing it right. Obviously, they make a profit, they spend less than they earn, and then they're saving in Bitcoin. So they're, again, like the kind of like the trifecta, right? Create value for others, spend less than you earn, save in Bitcoin, and you got it made. And so like that's good advice for a person, let alone a company. And companies that don't make a profit can't do that. And so this is kind of the world that we're in right now. And so yeah, I mean it's an exciting time. I get the push and pull in each direction. And it's weird because I think that transition is going to be an odd one, and nobody's going to quite know where the chips lie, like before, during, and after. And I'd say we're kind of like in the early during phase of it, and we'll see what happens. But either way, I got to round it out. So gentlemen, before we log off here, I'd like to quickly just get any like a quick snippet of a final thought, and like a recommendation from people, guests on the show. So final thought for me is, I mean, Bitcoin has its tendrils in everywhere, and it's changing the very fiber of the reality that we're experiencing, like on an individual level, on a company level, on a human rights perspective. Like it's everywhere, and it's beginning to affect everyone. And we've just begun to kind of see that. And the average person doesn't even notice yet. And they will. And so that's very exciting for me. My recommendation for people would be go check out the Href thing that I'm involved in. I really am excited about it, and I want to see more people go check it out. So basically, if you just find Alex Gladstein, just at Gladstein on Twitter, he tweeted about it and has some links. Just, I mean, if you want to share it around, I think it's an important thing. I'm happy to be a part of it. So that would be my recommendation there. But Adam, I'll toss it to you. Any quick final thoughts, recommendations that you might have?
Big ups to Jeff. That was super fun, man. I love going back and forth. I totally agree with Ben. It's like, it's so good how Bitcoin can be different things to different people. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is a representation of the value that an individual or an entity can produce. And I think that's what makes it so pure and so beautiful. It's like below the M0. It's like, it's the OG baseline of value. And I think that's absolutely epic. Recommendation, I would be remiss not to say, here we are on Good Friday. My friend Alan Armstrong wrote a book called The Bible and Bitcoin. It's dynamite, represents how the whole Bitcoin journey funnels toward God. So go read that. It's super fascinating and interesting. And I don't think people will get what they expect from that.
Awesome. I also want to get, speaking of, I'm not a super religious person, but there's a guy that I quite like that's been on the show before. As I was organizing the panel here, I saw tweets afterwards of inviting, asking him to come on for Good Friday, but I had already kind of lined up the panel. So I will give it.
I think that might be, it might be that's Alan Armstrong. That's who wrote the book. Yeah,
he's an awesome dude, and so I didn't see his tweets until afterwards, and it would have been a very excellent thing to incorporate into the show. So Alan, sorry about that, but do go check out his book. Adam, can you give the book a plug one more time, just so we funnel some people?
It's called The Bible and Bitcoin. It's awesome. Yeah, definitely awesome. The Bible and Bitcoin by Alan Armstrong. Alan's like weird, ALIN, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah. Shout out to Alan, aka Pastor Coin on X. Jeff, I'll toss it to you. Final thoughts, recommendations. Go ahead.
Perfect. I love the fact that I'm with Canadians. The stories are it's awesome. I love it. Final thoughts. The Bitcoin halving is 20 days away, 22 days away. We got a lot of bull indicators on the horizon. It is going to be the next 24 months are going to be a ton of fun. My recommendation, I'm sure everybody that's watching this has already done an on-chain transaction, but go secure your Bitcoin, go take it off of exchanges, go do an on-chain transaction and figure it out. You see the math in first person. It's like, it's the coolest thing. And it gives you so much conviction in any Bitcoin related trade that you do. So
awesome.
Number one recommendation. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Tatum also said, sorry, his computer died. He couldn't stick it out. You know, he sold all his chairs, all his furniture, and I guess his computer is now gone too. So the truest Bitcoiner out of all of us. But gentlemen, thank you for being here. Have a great weekend, a great Easter weekend, and I'll see you both again soon. You're welcome back.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Catch you
later.
See ya.
See you later. All right. And everybody in the chat, thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate you guys spending an awesome Friday evening getting bullish with me. Good Friday. And to those of you that celebrate, very happy Good Friday and Easter weekend. I hope you have a great one. Again, everybody that's been watching, please do, if you can, like, subscribe, share, all those things. Super awesome. Follow the gents that were on the show. All their links are down below. Of course, Adam at Bitcoin Well, again, now a partner of the channel. Again, longtime friend. So happy to be working with him. And he's honestly, he's fucking killing it. So go check out bitcoinwell.com. They're awesome. But of course, you can like, subscribe, share if you want to continue to check out everything that's happening here. And you can also head over to my website, btcsessions.ca. If you ever have any trouble and the tutorials on the channel aren't quite cutting it, you need some hand holding, I can help you along the way. Anyways, with that, enough of my rambling. I'm gonna call it a night. Thank you guys so much for being here. Have a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
HODL the Bitcoin.